Good morning, everyone. It's right at 11 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started just to make sure we have enough time today. My name is Lauren Wilson. I work at the Price Hospital within our Population Health Department. So thank you for joining me today for our first Your Life, Your Health seminar series. We are kicking it off with the first official seminar with the New Year, New You, presented by Amanda Valentine. I will do a little introduction of Amanda, but first I'd like to start off with a few housekeeping rules. Everyone will be muted through the duration of the seminar. If you do have questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box you can find at the bottom of your screen. Amanda will be answering your questions at the end of the seminar, so please feel free to type your questions or comments throughout the presentation. A little background on Amanda. Amanda Valentine has faced a lifetime of obesity and years of yo-yo dieting. But after a decade of getting real results by losing over 100 pounds and finally keeping it off, Amanda is on a mission, quitting a 20-year broadcasting career to become a certified nutritionist and personal trainer. Amanda now helps to inspire healthier lifestyles through sharing powerful experiences, daily struggles, as well as helpful tips and tricks with nutrition, exercise, and motivation that will provide a new path toward a healthier, happier life. And with that, I'll pass it over to Amanda Valentine. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. Hi, I am Amanda Valentine. It's always hard to do these where I can't see everybody, but so I'm going to be showing you guys some slides and kind of going into a little bit more description of me and my journey and everything that I've been through, and personally and professionally, my best advice of living your best life, living a healthy lifestyle in realistic terms and not just kind of doing that yo-yo thing of like, oh, it's the first of the year, it's January, New Year's resolution, and this is the month we eat broccoli, and then February is the month that we eat Taco Bell. And you can have Taco Bell every month and still be healthy. So I'm going to go into that. Let me share my screen. And I have made sure that I've closed all inappropriate tabs, I think. So let me move this over here and show you guys my slideshow. So this is also me. Hi, there's my sports bra. So yes, I'm Amanda Valentine, and here we go into my journey, but this is also me. So I've kind of been every size, every place, mentally, physically, a lot of things going on. So I know a lot of people that know me now. I've been in Cincinnati the past 7 years, don't really know this version of me or these versions of me, although me on the motorized cooler with a PBR is pretty much still me. But, you know, it's always good to have like before pictures, or I guess, you know, before and after pictures to kind of show progress. And so many of them over the years I've deleted because I would see pictures of myself and be like, if you are going to tag me in that on any social media, I'm going to unfriend you from life, and hated having my photos taken. They were burned and deleted outside of a few special few that I have here. And just to give you an idea of who I've been, I have dealt with obesity and body image and everything since as long as I can remember. Since, you know, around 6 years old, I knew I was wearing adult size clothes. I knew that I was different than the other kids in my class because there was a hefty amount of bullying going on. Part of that might have been from this haircut, which I feel like my mom did in the dark, and this Orville Redenbacher outfit. This was not helping the situation, but this is pretty much me my whole life. This is me in 5th grade, got those cute, squishy, chubby cheeks. And so I just always knew that, you know, I hated PE. I didn't feel like I fit in with everybody else. I grew up in a really small town in Illinois. So my graduating class from kindergarten and 8th grade was 60 kids. And I was one of the bigger kids in the class. And it was a little bit of a rough road, but I didn't really know how to deal with that, especially personally for me. I mean, I was a kid in the 90s. It's not like the internet was a bunch of information like it is now. And really so much of this was mental health. And my relationship with food was just like, oh, I'm unhappy with myself. I don't really understand why. And then I would binge. So I have been diagnosed with binge eating disorder. And this is something I've dealt with through my childhood and through my adulthood. And I actually didn't even realize it was binge eating disorder until I started my podcast, which we'll get into here in a second. But it was so much more than just, oh, I love food. There was a lot of mental health that went into that, and just not knowing what I was doing. And so I spent a decade doing yo-yo dieting. I mean, over 5. I mean, I've done Weight Watchers and South Beach and Atkins and all of those things. And I just didn't understand what food was. I didn't understand what portions were. I just didn't know anything other than just what I grew up with. I would self-sabotage myself. I think we can all relate to that, of being like, oh, well, I ate pizza for lunch, so the rest of the day is in the trash. I'm just gonna eat whatever. Or if I had a really good day, or I had a really bad day, let's eat, and just find reasons to just kind of get myself off my goals and my track. And I think for a long time, it's because I had really no reason why, other than I thought I needed to be like hot and skinny. Like there was no part of like, let's be healthy. Let's just move my body in healthy ways. Let's have longevity. It was just for the wrong reasons, honestly, that I realize now in hindsight. But I think that's also a good thing too, if you are thinking about being healthier outside of just New Year's resolution. I understand it is January, but why are you really doing this? Like, what is the real true reason, and what's the motivator? And so I didn't really have that for a long time. And I was just using food to numb out. Like I would just be like, I am unhappy. I am unhappy mentally, physically. I'm just going to eat to not think. And I think a lot of us do that. I mean, I still do that. So, I mean, it's not like this is a cure-all, but I think recognizing, at least for me, that was a relationship that I had with food and health, was that I was just using it to numb out. And then I would say that I hit my quote unquote rock bottom a decade ago. It's been 10 years for me now, and I didn't realize at the time it was a rock bottom. But this is me exactly 10 years ago. This is the beginning of January of 2012. But in 2011, I was binge eating to the point of pain every single night. Like I just would come home, my husband would be at work, I knew I would be alone, I'd hit multiple drive-throughs, or I would order 2 large pizzas for myself. The pizza guy would come over and I would be like, oh, hey guys, pizza's here. Like fully knowing it is just me and acting like there's a party because I'm ordering 2 large pizzas to crush by myself, and then cry. And then I would hide the boxes so my husband wouldn't know that I was just eating so much food. And it was not even a pleasure thing. It wasn't even finding foods that were delicious. It was just numbing out. I didn't know how to deal with the day. Eating at the time, and this picture is taken, I was living in Denver, and I wouldn't even go outside for walks. Like it's the most beautiful place. And I was just binge drinking with my friends. I was binge eating in private. And I was just like, this does not feel like my life. Like, is this what life is? Because I'm deeply unhappy with everything going on, with how my body feels, how my body looks, how I mentally feel about everything. Like something's got to change. So I made a New Year's resolution. So I am a believer of New Year's resolutions. And at that time, I'm like, I've done diets for 10 years now. I dieted through my whole 20s, and I would lose 60 pounds and gain it back, and lose 40 and gain it back. And I'm like, those obviously don't work because I gained the weight back, and that's not the goal. The goal is to be healthy and continue to be healthy. So I made my New Year's resolution. I'm just going to make the best decision possible in every moment. And that decision completely changed my life and has led me to doing this conversation right now, where I can't be like, I ate a pizza today, throw away the whole day. It's more just like take it moment to moment and really sitting and thinking of like, what's the best decision right now? How is the outcome I'm going to feel mentally and physically on the other side of this decision? An example that I use all the time is, if I go to a ball game, I want helmet nachos and a beer. And if that's my best decision possible, if I'm going to a ball game, because that feels like life, that feels like, that feels good to me. I don't want to eat celery sticks and a salad at a baseball game. That seems like a bummer. So my best decision in that moment is to get my helmet nachos, get a beer, and then the next opportunity I have to eat or move my body, make the best decision possible in that moment. So maybe it's the hot dog and a beer at a baseball game, and the next decision is like, okay, well, I'm going to have like a nice salad, or I'm going to eat, your classic chicken, rice, and broccoli for dinner, or whatever that is. And kind of making those small decisions and making really small steps made a huge change for me. So in that year, by August, so 8 months, I was already 55 pounds down, although I look deeply unhappy about that in this photo. And by the way, I was taking this in a library. They had Denver, they have this thing where you could try to like do weigh-ins to like win cash prizes. And I like prizes. So I was doing that, but it was so eye-opening because I was just making these smaller decisions. And so I knew like I'm crushing Red Bulls all day, like a serious Red Bull addiction. So I'm like, perhaps I should have a glass of water sometimes, or maybe I should have some vegetables at some point. So it's just making these small decisions of like, okay, well, I'm just going to try to back down off the Red Bulls, and I want caffeine. I have a hardcore caffeine addiction. So I'm not the pillar of success there of getting off a caffeine addiction. But I knew like, well, coffee is a better choice than Red Bull. But I always hated black coffee. And anytime I would drink coffee, I would like pour half a bag of sugar in it and a whole thing of creamer to make it taste good. So I'm like, well, how do I get myself from obsessive amounts of Red Bull to coffee? So I started with drinking iced mochas. Is that the best decision I could possibly make? Probably not, but is it the best decision possible in that moment to make that transition? Yes. So I went from Red Bulls to iced mochas to iced lattes to iced coffee that's black. That transition took me a year. But in that year, I'm making these smaller decisions like that. And I'm starting to make stir fry. That was a big thing for me because I'm like, how do I get vegetables in this space? Because I don't want to eat them. Like I like stir fry. I like teriyaki sauce. Is it the healthiest thing possible to dump a half a bottle on teriyaki sauce onto stir fry? No, but that was better than what I was doing before. That's better than crushing 2 large pizzas at a time. So it's like, if that's what I have to do to get the veggies in me, then that's this decision I made. And as I'm making these small decisions and weight's coming off and I'm feeling really good, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. Like I'm doing this for myself and nobody's telling me what to do. I'm just kind of figuring out what I like, what I don't like. I started walking a lot and then I started running. And so I just started by walking around the block and then turned into let's walk a couple miles. And then I got a Fitbit, then I got a little obsessive with the step counts. And I was feeling so good. I'm like, what if I could run? So I started listening to a Couch to 5K podcast. And I ran my first mile without stopping ever when I was 30 years old. And I stopped in the middle of the street and cried. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even do this in the presidential challenge in school. And here I am running. And then I ran my first official 5K in August of the next year. And I wanted to make this note too, that notice the timeline of this is a year and a half. Like this wasn't, I started making healthy decisions January of 2012. And here I am running races 6 months later. Like this was a slow progression. And that's what has helped me like keep weight off, become healthier, become more active as I took these baby steps and figured out what I liked instead of just racing through it of losing 60 pounds in 6 months. So this became, I really got into running and I really enjoyed it. And then I've done many flying pig and queen beans races. So I'm actually a flying pig ambassador. And I have been for the past several years and am this year as well, just because I love it. I don't run anymore. My knees don't really hang with me as well as they used to. So I walk them all. And because I personally love walking. And so to get from where I started to here, it did start with those small goals of like, okay, well, let's just drink some water. Let's just get some vegetables in. Let's just go for a small walk and let's just take this one step at a time and make that best decision possible. And those better choices of really kind of sitting there thinking before I make a choice, like, is this a good choice for me? Is this going to get me where I'm going to go without trashing myself over it? Am I going to feel good mentally and physically on the other side of it? Of kind of giving up the gimmicks of all of the, the diets that have names and buy my stuff and buy my supplements and do this and buy these pills and buy these vitamins. And really, if somebody's making money off of it, then, if it's just like a product, like, is that really going to help me, or if I'm just buying into something because I want a quick fix. So that's where this time around, I didn't buy into those. I mean, before when I did Weight Watchers, I ate an uncomfortable amount of like their cookies and cakes and stuff because only 1 point. So I'd eat a whole box. So I didn't really kind of buy into that stuff this time, and making those habit changes, and habit changes are hard, but I will say that it's really helpful to attach a new habit to an old habit. So if you know that every morning that you have your cup of coffee, you look forward to that. I do, again, caffeine addiction. Then I'm like, well, before I get that cup of coffee, I want to drink a cup of water before that cup of coffee. And now I've started this new habit of at least drinking some water every day. Like, you don't have to go from never drinking water to crushing a gallon of water a day. It's just like, well, I got a glass in. That's better than what I was doing before. Can make that a habit. And then after that habit changes of like, okay, well, can I increase this? How am I feeling about it? Also focusing on mental health, which is so important. I mean, especially the past 2 years, I feel like all of our mental health got a nice like kick in the head, but also just feeling like when you are making these choices about movement or food or anything that you're doing, is how are you feeling about it? Are you really getting some joy out of it? Or are you punishing yourself? And I think that, and even though I have that as a marker a little bit lower here, bullying yourself. Are you bullying yourself into being healthy? Are you actually enjoying the process of what you're doing? And asking for help is so incredibly important. And that's been a big struggle for me for a long time, because so much of my background is just like do it on your own, fiercely independent. I don't need nobody. Really, like we all need somebody. And whether that's just asking a coworker, that's asking a friend for advice. If you need an accountability buddy, just ask for help, a coach, a personal trainer, a doctor, anybody. Like, there are no wrong questions. Ask for help. And also you got to trust the process a little bit, because I'm a deeply impatient person. And so to do this process and know how slow it goes, it's like, well, you just have to kind of trust that you know where you're going and you're figuring it out along the way. And PS, you're going to fail a ton. And so when you do fail, just be like, okay, well, what did I learn from this, and pick myself back up. And then focus on gratitude of really what's going good. And I know that can be really hard. And I'm also in the process of trying to gratitude journal every day. But when you find yourself like in a spin of like, I suck at this or whatever, it's good to be like, well, here is some steps I'm making. And here are things that I do feel good about in my life, whether that's health and fitness related or not. And it is just so much more than just weight loss. I know that seeing a picture of myself can be dramatic of here's what I look like pre-losing 100 pounds and afterwards, but it's been way, way more than just a weight loss story. I mean, from my journey in health has given me an entirely new outlook on life. It has made me more productive in every area of my life, and it has given my life a whole new purpose. And to kind of go through that, where it's given me a new outlook on life of this is me 2019, pre-pandemic in the Canadian Rockies, summited a mountain, hiked across a glacier for 10 days, or 10, we did the glacier hike in like 3 days, I think, but backpacked across the glacier. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I could never do before physically, or even mentally believe that I could do this. And I'm like, wow, like, look at this. Like, again, I said earlier, my New Year's resolution kind of started of, this doesn't feel like what I want my life to be. And this feels like this is what I want my life to be. I'm having these experiences. I'm doing some cool stuff. Like, I am so proud of myself. I summited this huge mountain. My feet were kind of a hamburger at this point, but I mean, it was amazing. And it's given me this outlook of like, man, like, again, I could run 1 mile. Like, what else can I do? Like, let's go. Like, let's see where this life can take us, and just be more excited towards life than just be like, everything's a bummer. More productive. So this is the moment that Garth Brooks fell in love with me, in case you were wondering when he actually fell in love with me. But I did work in radio for 20 years. This is Cincinnati is actually my 7th state I've worked in. And I did do the afternoon show on B105 for 5 years here. So this is me and my old co-host, Jesse. We had won a CMA award for Radio Personalities of the Year in 2017. And I absolutely would not have been at a place of career success like this without, being a healthier lifestyle. I certainly wouldn't have worn this dress. I was already its own mental struggle of trying to wear this dress in the first place. But it was just, through feeling healthier and feeling better about myself. For me, and my job at broadcasting at the time was radio had become like behind the microphone into you're on social media and you have pictures now and you have videos and you're doing all of these things. And in the headspace I was in before, there's absolutely no way I was performing up to that, because I didn't feel good about myself. I had no confidence in doing any of those things besides hiding. And so, I mean, once I started feeling just good about myself, mentally and physically, I'm like, I felt more like myself. I had so much fun in my job. I could just hit the ground running and had so much more confidence. So it just changed me in the workplace specifically so much more and made me so much more productive and successful. And how it's changed my purpose is, so now, I've changed careers in the past 2 years. I'm now a certified personal trainer, a certified nutritionist, a certified weight loss specialist, and a certified behavior change specialist. My goodness, the list of certifications. And so now I host a podcast full time. I've been doing that for years. I am a personal trainer at Cincy 360 Fitness for in-person personal training. I do some health coaching, virtual health coaching, and I've taken my story and everything I've lived through, and I'm like, how can I help other people go through this? Because it is absolutely not easy, and it's not easy to do on your own, which is why it's so great to have so many good resources of, where do I go? And who do I talk to? And what is the best advice in a world full of like marketing that, is just everybody's kind of screaming what you should do because it benefits that person the most. You know what I'm saying? So what I've also learned from wellness in the workplace, since this is a topic of discussion we're going through here today, I mean, I have worked in corporate atmospheres for most of my career. So I know how the workplace is here comes donuts and here comes snacks and here comes like, oh, out of nowhere, we're going to go on a lunch. Were you going to come or are you going to sit here and eat your broccoli? And so there's lots of things to think about when you're trying to be the healthiest version of yourself. And so things that you can do in the workplace is just hydration is important. Just getting the water in however you got to do it. Again, you don't have to crush a gallon a day, but how do you drink a little bit more water? And hey, guess what? Your step count goes up whenever you're going to the bathroom to pee so much. So there's the benefit about, can I get up and just walk around, do some laps? Or even if you're working from home, can I get up and just get a little bit more active? Like, it doesn't have to be insane. You don't have to have like a CrossFit routine to be healthy. Also having accountability partners, having, coworkers or acquaintances of, hey, let's buddy up and do a step count challenge, or just ask each other questions, or just have somebody that can realistically kind of cheer you on the days where it's not so easy, because those days will absolutely happen. I think having prepared meals and snacks is super, super important. I am a personal meal prepper. I've been meal prepping over 8 years. I do it a little aggressively. I meal prep for the whole week pretty much on Sundays. And I do share that process on my Instagram page. So to kind of just give people like recipes and stuff like that. But I think that even if you don't go ham on it and do your whole meals, you can have snacks at your desk, like just easy things to grab and just be like, so when that does come up of like, hey, we're going to go out to lunch, you can have at least the option of, hey, I brought my snacks. Do I want this or do I want the other thing? And then make that best decision. And whatever decision you make on the other side of it, be like, I can't beat myself up over that. I can't be like, oh, I went and like ate all of Buffalo Wild Wings today. I hate myself. I'm such a failure. Like, nope. If you sat and thought about it, do I want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and just really crush some boneless wings today? Yeah, that feels awesome. Then feel good about that decision and then make the next decision after that. Or could it be like, hey, we're going to B-dubs. Do you want to go, or do you want to eat the lunch that you prepared? And sometimes maybe like, you know what, I don't want to throw food away. I already have a plan. I have some goals. Next time I definitely want to go, but I have this. So just kind of giving yourself some options, I think is incredibly helpful. And then again, go with that best decision possible in every moment. And again, strive for 1% better, not perfection. We don't have to go from, hey, we're eating Taco Bell to we're only eating steamed chicken and broccoli, which sounds super sad. So it's like finding the balance of just making little better decisions of things that you feel good about. And everybody's goals are going to be completely different. We're all in such different places. We all have different body chemistry. And so what is good for one person isn't great for another. So figuring out what's best for you and what is 1% better for you. Be patient and be patient through the process where, yeah, maybe just drinking more water every day isn't going to make you lose 100 pounds immediately. But if you're making those habit changes, then you're probably going to make some other habit changes. And one day you're going to look back and be like, holy crap, I'm sleeping better. I have more energy, and thinking of all these other things that are more helpful too, not just what's my pant size, what's the number on the scale. again, how's my sleep? How's my energy? How am I feeling mentally? Am I having a lot of brain fog, or is that lifted? Like those are all good markers of health, and making and seeing the progress of those things, which is why having like a journal is super helpful to kind of track that progress, because sometimes you don't always see that in the day to day. Also, asking for help piece again, I put that in here multiple times. So I'm going to hammer that point. Ask for help if you need it. And also knowing that learning or that failing is just a learning opportunity, which I know just sounds very like Oprah-like, but I mean, that's really true, because I mean, and like I'm saying in the next thing here, consistency is motivation. And actually, like you think that confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. And so it's just that consistency part can be very hard. And that's why it's like, well, I did this for 2 weeks and then I'm back to my old habits. And so instead of just focusing on like, oh, I just failed again, you can take it into like, okay, well, what made that fail? Like, okay, so that didn't work for me. I keep going in these 2-week spurts or month-long spurts, and then it doesn't work anymore. Of really kind of piecing that apart for yourself and be like, well, where did it fall apart? If you're trying to go the no carb route and after a month, you're like, if I don't eat a carb, somebody's getting cut, then maybe you realize that you need to have some carbs in your nutrition, which I am a fully believer of eating carbs. Personally, carbs are amazing and delicious, but knowing that about yourself, of like, maybe that's why it didn't work, or maybe I was trying to shoehorn something into my schedule that just doesn't fit this way, and kind of looking at like, when I keep tripping up, because you will, what is it that's kind of not getting you there, and then kind of figuring it out from there. And I think that one of the things that goes into the patience piece as well is goes into that you have to experiment a lot with food, with your movement. I mean, it's always a moving target, which again, the patience, it's like, oh, I just figured this out. This works, until it doesn't anymore. That just means we need to shift things and change things up. Just like if you've ever had the dreaded plateau, trying to like lose weight or whatever your goals are, that's usually the indication of we got to change things up. You got to get pushed out of your comfort zone a little bit, which everyone loves. Everyone loves getting out of their comfort zone, right? And I think that the mindset around health and fitness is changing for the better, in my opinion, of going more of that from that Biggest Loser, let's lose some weight, like it's all about, the weight loss challenges and even things like 75 hard. If you guys looked into that, that's pretty aggressive, into more of just thinking of like, what is whole health look like? Focusing on the good things, of focusing on, again, sleep and mental health and your energy and all of those things as a whole, and focusing about those good things rather than like, let's just aggressively look at what we need to be aesthetically. And also focusing on how you feel mentally and physically. I've said that multiple times already so far. I'm good at repeating myself, but are the choices that you're making you feel good mentally and physically? And if they're not, that's the time to kind of shift those. And I think that that's such an important marker of health and doing all of this, rather than just constantly being like, well, if I'm not in this size jean, or if I'm not at this number, or if I don't have a 6-pack, then that equals failure and not success. Like, as long as you're feeling good about everything, I mean, that feels like the win to me. And such a big thing for me too, in my own experience and what I've seen in so many other people, personally and professionally, is focusing on the experiences a healthier life can give you, of thinking about, kind of like I said earlier, whenever I have made my New Year's resolution of like, this doesn't feel like my life. So what does your life, what do you want that to feel like? What do you want that to look like? And how can being healthier give you those things? A personal example that I have is, this is me in Colorado. And in 2011, before my New Year's resolution, I tried to hike to the top of the Great Sand Dunes, which are aggressively large sand mountains. And so thinking about hiking a mountain alone is tough. Hiking one that's sand is not easy. And I tried in 2011, I didn't even make it halfway up, and I'm like, I'm out of here. Nope. This is not for me. And after making these healthy choices for myself and feeling good about my abilities mentally and physically, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to hop on top that guy, and I'm going to record a podcast, which is what I did in 2019. I went back to Colorado, and I hiked to the top. You can see it's a little snowstorm in there in the back, and I recorded a podcast at the top. And for me, living a healthier lifestyle got to give me this amazing life experience. In this picture, I'm not focused on what size pant am I wearing? How much do I weigh? What do other people think about how I look? I'm thinking about like, this is badass. And this is what I want in my life to be. And I'm able to do this because of the healthy choices that I make. And that so much has gone into my podcast, which is called Pound This. I promise it's not porn. And it's all about health and fitness. I've been doing it for 4 years now. Where I kind of cover everything. I talk to dietitians, I talk to personal trainers, I talk to other people and their stories, I talk to therapists. I wanted to see, like, I know me trying to live a healthier lifestyle was so difficult on my own and just trying to navigate it. I was like, how can I be a resource for other people so they could hear other people that they could possibly go to for help or ask for questions, and just kind of understand that this struggle is hard and there's a lot of roadblocks and stumbling, and what's the best way we can get past that. And it's been absolutely amazing and life-changing for me. And I did want to focus on a podcast that just come out this week, who is featuring a doctor from Christ Hospital. So I have a doctor from Christ on once a month. And this one came out Monday with Dr. Shaftel, and talking about wrist and hand pain, and like whether it's carpal tunnel or if you're trying to do a push-up, like what can we do about wrist and hand pain? And he had some really insightful answers, which was really great. So there's this, why I just like being a resource. So if you needed something to, if you needed to, I obviously have almost 800 episodes. There's a lot to choose from of information to help you make healthier choices for yourself, which is just kind of wild that all I did was make healthier choices for myself. I started walking. I started moving my body in ways that I found personally enjoyable. I started eating foods and finding ways to eat foods like vegetables. I was an anti-vegetable person for a long time, and finding ways to really enjoy them, and just making these healthier changes completely changed my life in every aspect, from, career to my, personally, to the adventures I've been on. It's just, it's wild what health can really give you. Besides, obviously if you have your health, you have everything, but the life that it can give you. So that's my big mission, is just, make some small healthy choices, and you can be pretty amazed at the changes that can happen for you from doing that. And with that, I will go into questions. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Lauren, do I just read the Q&A box?
Yeah, so it looks like we have one question in there right now. Can you see that, or would you like me to read it out loud to you?
Yeah, I got it. So what advice do you have for, I guess everybody can see this because as you're sharing the screen, for partners of those who are trying to make a lifestyle change, or the way they can show support? You know what? This is interesting because I've been with my husband for 18 and a half years, and we live completely different lifestyles. He doesn't exercise, and he eats an incredible amount of Hostess and Little Debbie and ice cream every single day, and he doesn't gain any weight. It's deeply unfair. So I would say that's hard. I think one way they can show support is maybe just, going to the gym with you, or going for a walk with you, or asking to help cook, or I think just general support. Even though my husband doesn't live the same lifestyle as me, he's very supportive of it. There's never been don't do this, or you're doing this too much, or I don't like this. It's never been judgmental or putting it down. It's just what do you need? How can I help you? And I'm here to support you. Although he lives a different way than me. And sometimes, when I get experimental with food, he'll definitely want to try some of those things, which is exciting. Or hey, show me how to do this. I'm interested in how can I make vegetables taste better in the air fryer, sort of thing. So I would say that, I think that just whether you're going to eat or move or do the same things the same way, or even if you just have a sleep routine that's similar of can we both agree to be off of our phones for the last hour before we go to bed to get a good night's sleep? It could just be little things like that is just supportive of just whatever you need from me. Then I have, what type of snacks would you have? Oh man. So my go-to, like just travel snacks that I have is like the little packets of Justin's nut butters. Like I keep those in my purse. I keep them in my glove box. I mean, they're all over the place. I like the packets of tuna, like especially the ones that come with like a little spork now, and you get the flavored ones, and that's a good protein source, or just even protein powder, which I know isn't everybody's jam. So those are kind of like my travel snacks, like that are just on me because they don't go bad. But snacks that I make throughout today, I personally eat 5 meals a day. So kind of, excuse me, in the afternoon, it gets a little bit more snacky. Like I will just, I'll make chia pudding, I'll make smoothies, I will take like little boxes and I'll put like hard-boiled eggs and cheese and veggies. Like these are just the things that I like. But I would say, as far as thinking of like snacks or anytime you eat, I think having a good macro plate. So I think you want to have high protein, you want to have some carbs and some fats. And having that kind of balance, like anytime you eat, is going to keep you full longer. And usually by doing those things, you're kind of, you don't have to, again, make the cleanest choice ever, but it's like, as long as you're kind of thinking about, okay, well, how am I getting a protein in here? How am I getting some carbs and getting a little bit of fat, and having that balance, whatever that is. I think that's helpful to think about meals and for snacking. But outside of just regular snacks, I just think popcorn's great. Anything is pretty good. It depends on what your goals are. Beef jerky or any kind of jerky. Just think of higher protein sorts of things, or the things that you like. It doesn't necessarily have to be like celery sticks and hummus. I think that's kind of what everybody thinks when you think of healthy snacks. But if you like eating that, then you don't need to eat it. Cottage cheese is a big one for me. I don't know what everybody's vibes are on dairy, but cottage cheese is high in protein. It's super easy. I'll get off on a food. I'll talk about food tangents all day. So I should probably move on. I don't even know what time it is. I really struggle with meal planning. I'm not sure why. It sounds so simple. And any tips on getting it going? My tip would be to start with like your most like troubled meal. So I think that a lot of people have issues with breakfast because when they either just skip it and drink coffee, which is fine if you're in the intermittent fasting or whatever. But it's like, if you're like, I never get to do breakfast because I got a million things going on. I'm getting ready for work. I'm getting the kids ready. It can be a really distracting meal. Or maybe yours is lunch, because whatever your reason, lunch, whatever that problem kind of meal is, I would start by kind of meal planning just that one. It doesn't even have to be like preparing it ahead of time. It could just even have a plan with it. So you can break it down and make it so simple. It doesn't have to be like this insane process where it has to be like Instagram worthy. It can just be like, okay, I know breakfast is hard for me. What's an easy go-to breakfast that I can make every day and have the ingredients for, so I can make it real quickly? Or is it something that maybe you could make the night before or prep it out for the whole week, like whatever works best for you? So I say start really small like that, or just know that you're so hungry you want to chew your arm off in the middle of the afternoon. So, okay, so what snack can I have at this time? And what can I plan for? Like what can I make, or what can I just already have like kind of written in my calendar of that's what the meal is going to be, or that's what the snack's going to be, and start there and try to make that habit out of it and see how it helps. And then if that's really helpful and you're like, this is how I got into meal prepping, where I started doing that because I was doing a morning show on the radio and breakfast is hard, like I'm on the air. So I would start with breakfast, and then I was like, dang, this is really helping me. And plus I just hate the anxiety of like opening up a fridge and be like, I don't know what I'm going to eat. And if the choice is like celery sticks, or it's going to be a block of cheese, I'm going to eat the block of cheese. So it helped me to just take that anxiety away. So, and once I started with the breakfast, I'm like, well, can I do this for more meals? And then it just, for me, it made my life so simple. But it's kind of starting slow, I think, is the key to anything, instead of just feeling like I'm never meal prep before I have to meal prep a whole week. And then by the end of the week, if you're like, this food makes me want to yak, then that's not the right solution. You don't want to get to that point. You know what I mean? What advice would you give to someone that is on a health journey that hits those consecutive days when you don't want to exercise? How do you motivate yourself on those days or during those weeks? I would say just even like walking or step counts, or do something different, because I know exactly how that feels, where you're like, especially if you're going to the gym where you're like, I have to change clothes and I gotta drive there, and there's like so many barriers for you to be like, I'm just not going to do that right now. I would say that on those consecutive days, at least try to be like, you know what, I'm going to commit to at least doing something for 10 minutes. And usually when you do that, even if it's going for a walk or jogging in place or YouTube, there's plenty of like exercise videos or just anything, or if you have the Peloton app, I mean, you got to pay for that, but, or just anything, and not think of it, oh, as I'm not exercising today. If you're walking for 10 minutes, if you're moving, that is exercise. And I actually did a podcast with Dr. Kyle Timmerman from from Miami University, which I talked to with Dr. Quesada yesterday from Christ Hospital. We recorded a podcast about how movement, there's just, you don't even need that much to drastically reduce chronic disease. Like it is just getting up and going for a walk and not thinking that it has to be this intense workout. So I think that as long as on those days you're just moving a little bit or having yourself do something, go through a nice little yoga routine, even if it's 10, 15 minutes or moving, that I think that you feel so much better on the other side of that it can help you during the kind of get back into that wagon of remind yourself why you're doing this and just trying to keep a consecutive habit in there. Because if we got time to scroll on our phone, and I know this is like a cliche at this point, but if we got time to scroll, which I do, I get lost in TikTok way more than I'd like to, then I have that time that I could also easily open up a 10-minute video online. And again, it doesn't have to be anything wild, but I could get down and do some stretches at least. So it's like we can build in that time somewhere just to kind of keep the consistency up, even though it's not exactly what we do. And then hopefully that brings you into a space where you want to get back into your new routine, or it might be like, okay, you know what, I'm just kind of done doing bar classes right now. Let me try something else. So it could just be an opportunity to let you know of like, maybe we're kind of running out of this cycle and then you don't enjoy this kind of movement as much as you once did, and time to change something up. Do I have a publication with food recipes? I do have a virtual cookbook available for sale on my website, which is AmandaValentineBites.com. And that is 16 recipes. And I have full-length videos, like, so you can like cook along with me. So I do have that. I also do have a lot of recipes posted in my highlights on my Instagram page, which is You Can Pound This. So I know it sounds like a bot, but it's not. But if you go in there and you go into my highlights, so not only do I have recipes and show what I'm making, but I do post like what I eat on a daily basis and the things that I make. And usually on Saturday afternoons or Sundays, I will go through the meal prep process, setting off smoke alarms and everything and pulling my own hair out of my food because that's real life of like, just, you know, how I eat and how the things that I do that I personally find helpful. So that's kind of where you can find my recipes currently. And then also, how do you stay motivated in your routine? What do you do for the days you just don't want to do it? Kind of like I brought up earlier of just kind of having those little bit of movement days. And I mean, I will say this now, I mean, I work in a gym now, which is new for me. I mean, it's especially because I used to be the person, I literally took extra band classes in all 4 years of high school. So I never had to step foot in the gym. So, and now I work in a gym. It's weird, but there's days it's like, I don't feel like working out even though I'm there. And it's just kind of like, okay, well then again, sitting into like, what's the best decision for me? Do I really need a rest day? Do I really like mental space? I can't do this right now. Or can I just do something little and am I going to feel better on the other side? And I always feel better on the other side, even if it's stepping out of the gym and going for a walk, because I personally just really love walking. That is my personal favorite exercise. And so I find motivation through that. I also, and this isn't me just pimping out my own podcast again, but I do listen to other podcasts or like YouTube videos just to kind of like get me back in that mindset again. And so, because there's just so much brain chaos that I think that we're all in, and it's hard to kind of pull yourself back there to go to a healthier place, but kind of having some of those go-tos, or again, that's where it's like having accountability buddy or a coach or a trainer or your doctor or somebody that, I mean, probably not your doctor. They probably don't want you mic charting them every day to like be like, how to motivate me today. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of somebody where it's like, yo, I'm not feeling it. And somebody that can kind of just be your hype person. And I have those people in my life too, where, you know, I'm like, hey, I was just like, I'm wiped and burned out, and have somebody be like, again, focus on that gratitude of like, dude, you're doing so well. Like you're doing awesome. Like, let's go walk and get a coffee. And so I think that having somebody kind of help you whether that's somebody that you pay or it's somebody that's a friend, is helpful in those things too, because keeping motivation, especially when life gets so chaotic, can be a really big struggle. But then again, it's focusing on, why did I get off track? Why do I not want to do this? And looking in the mirror and having some hard answers is not fun. Of like, am I just like being like, oh, I'd rather lay down and watch TikTok, or, you know, or am I really just really need a mental break? So I think that kind of, I know that's a lot for that, for that answer, but there's a lot of moving pieces to it. But I think any movement, no matter what it is, giving yourself a little bit of that every single day, just keeps the traction going. And it, again, patience, it gives you those more long-term results. Then you don't think about exercise has to be, I have to dedicate 45 minutes to crushing. It can just be, I can go for a 10-minute walk, and that's still equally as helpful and healthy and keeps you going. So I guess that's it for the questions. Is there anything else that you guys want to know?
Thank you, Amanda. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box. I do want to say, Amanda, thank you so much. I absolutely love listening to you. I personally listened to your podcast. I did just listen to the one you released on Monday. Really interesting with the hand and wrist and how that affects people. So it looks like you have maybe one or two more questions in there if you want to answer those, and then I'll wrap us up.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you, Rachel. And then Erin, I think plant-based diets are great. I know you have diets in quotes. I think that's up to the individual. And that is something that if you're eating a plant-based diet, that might be somebody you want to talk to a dietitian or a nutritionist or a doctor about getting kind of, your nutrients that you need out of that, of thinking of like your protein sources. But I think if that's the best choice for you, I'm all about plant-based whole foods, even though I eat a lot of animal protein. I think that there's things that I would worry about, is just thinking like the Whole30, although that's not just all plant-based, but the Whole30 diet is not meant for weight loss. It's meant to be a diet to see kind of what your allergens are. It's meant to kind of take everything down to a base level for a month, and then slowly reintroduce things like dairy and gluten and see how like your body reacts. Do you get bloated? Do you feel the brain fog? So I think some of these diets get used the wrong way, of that it's meant to be an elimination diet to kind of see your sensitivities to food versus lose a bunch of weight. And I've seen so many people do things like Whole30 and stick to that. And then as soon as it's over, they're like, I'm eating a whole birthday cake, the carbs are back. And it's like, okay, we kind of undid everything that we were working for here. So I think it is, if you are going to do a version of a diet, that do like some research into it, and whether that's, figuring out people that have done it before, listening to a podcast, reading some blogs on it, and just having good information about what you're doing. But plant-based, I think, is great as long as, you're hitting all of your nutrient goals and you're feeling, again, good mentally and physically doing it. Then I think that, whatever you're doing, and if it's working for you, then it works. So I guess that's it. Thank you, awesome. Everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda. I always love listening to you. Like I said, everyone, we will be doing another seminar next month in February. We are going to have two cardiologists from the Christ Hospital, Dr. Menon and Dr. Quesada, who Amanda actually just interviewed. She said yesterday. So invitation to follow, be on the lookout for that. And we'll see you guys next month.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.